From the beginning, this series has been all about creating a game that was based off of the Legend of Zelda series. There's so much I like about these games, especially the open worlds to explore, the dungeons, and the sense of progression you get as you play. As I'm creating my game though, it's starting to become apparent that the combat in the 2D Zelda games is a little too simple. The fights tend to be pretty slow paced, and there isn't too much strategy involved. I really noticed this when I was playing through Cult of the Lamb recently. This game has a very fun combat system, and when I compared it to my own game, I felt like mine just fell short. There are lots of modern 2D action games that implement combat in more interesting ways than the Zelda games. The indie game Hyper Light Drifter, for example, is very fast and action-packed, you have a lot of options in combat, and everything is much flashier than Zelda. At this point, I began thinking of ways that I could improve my own game. In the end, the list of things I wanted to improve on was kind of long, so I got to work creating a new version of this game that fixed a lot of these issues. I started with updating the graphics to simplify a lot of the environment, make things less repetitive in the background, made different trees to fill the empty space, improved how the water looks with the randomized waves, and most notably, I updated all the art to use a new color palette, specifically one that uses less saturated colors. I should mention that all of these changes are not necessarily final. I'm posting all of this primarily to get more feedback. If you have any thoughts on any of these changes, let me know in the comments. But now that I had a new art style, I next wanted to focus on the bigger issue at hand, the combat system. Just like the Zelda games, I was worried that my combat was a bit too simple and slow. I really want combat that's more like Hyper Light Drifter. You can attack and shoot in any direction, there's a dodge, everything is fast-paced and challenging, all great things for a game like this. But there was one aspect of my game that I felt was blocking any updates, and that's the main character. From the start, he was designed to only attack in the 4 primary directions, and adapting this to incorporate diagonals didn't feel feasible. He's also a bit tricky to animate, and making something like a dodge roll is something I know I would have a very difficult time making it look good. So I made the tough choice of designing a new player character, and this is what I landed on. It has a more unique design than before, and it's a more neutral character that anyone can identify with. I was able to put in the roll animation I was talking about, and best of all, when I put in diagonal attacking, like with the bow, it looks pretty good. The reason this works is because I intentionally made my new design so that the direction it's looking is more ambiguous, sort of making diagonal facing sprites, so no matter which direction I shoot the bow, it still looks good and natural. And the sword works really nicely for this as well. No matter the direction, the sword swipe still feels like it fits the animation. Now to make things more flashy. When I hit an enemy, I added a bunch of particles that fly off, there's some screen shake, and I put in a slight impact pause as well. I also reduced the knockback on the sword, making it a bit easier to combo enemies. These changes alone make the combat feel so much more satisfying. I've shown the bow and the sword so far, but I also adapted the boomerang to fit this 360-degree attacking setup, behaving basically the same as before, but it works in any direction. And I also updated the hook shot, which I've changed to be a grapple. It's much faster than before, and it also works in any direction. Technically, I also updated the bombs to be placed in any direction, but I have different plans in mind for these where you throw them rather than just place them on the ground. And that's where I'm at with this game. I understand that I showed a lot of changes here, but I really am interested to hear what people think of the new direction. Do you think changing the combat to be more modern and fast-paced was a good move? Or do you actually prefer the more retro combat? Any feedback at all is greatly appreciated. The whole project is still open source, by the way. You can find that link in the description. Also, leaving a like on the video helps out a ton, and feel free to subscribe for more game development content. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.